If spending money like water was the answer to our country's problems, we would have no problems now.
It's Wednesday night, which of course means that it's time for another Modern Comment show. And without further ado, here is Amy.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Modern Comments Radio. I am Amy, your host, and joining me this evening are Crystal.
Hi.
Who you can find on Twitter at TarheelCrystal, and new to the program, first-time guest, John, who you can find on Twitter at John_Alvarado_1. Hi, John. How are you this evening?
Hello, Amy. It's a pleasure to be talking to you again.
You're very welcome. Thank you for being on the show again and giving it another try. And Crystal, I didn't ask you, how are you this evening?
I'm all right. Ran out of beer, but what can you do?
You know, I might be dealing with a sinus infection, but I'm technically and not talking that much, but I technically am still here.
I was going to introduce you. I just hadn't gotten around to it.
Oh, I was just gonna act like you're invisible the whole show.
Oh, okay.
Oh, snap.
Ouch.
Girl fight.
Taylor is producing.
Girl fight.
He is under the weather, so he won't be contributing as much as he normally does. But you can find him on Twitter at iDesertBlog.
That's EYE.
Desert Blog. And if you want to join in the chat, you can go to vigilantlibertyradio.us and click on chat and sign into the chat room and join us there. Or you can tweet me on Twitter at Modern Comments, and I'll try and work your comments into the program. So without further ado, I want to get started because if you caught last night's Roundtable Extreme Liberty, you know that I jumped into the program and stayed on, and we pretty much went until midnight. So I was very, very tired when my alarm went off this morning. But when I got up and checked my news feed, a story came across my feed that is going to tie into what I wanted to talk today about. That's the SCOTUS ruling on Hobby Lobby. But we're going to talk first about a woman named Linda Rolane. She lived in Las Vegas, and she passed away on Monday. She died of an aggressive brain tumor. She was diagnosed with in January, and she was prevented from getting treatment for that brain tumor because she was unable to get insurance from contractor Xerox, who was the Nevada HealthLink contractor. According to the article that I read, she paid for the insurance, but was unable to get treatment because they said she wasn't enrolled, and she was part of a class action lawsuit to get her coverage, and unfortunately she passed away. And more than any cup of coffee, the outrage I felt and the sadness I felt at reading this story woke me up right away. And I want to talk about this because on Monday, if you haven't been living under a rock, you know that the SCOTUS ruled 5-4 in favor of the Greens and Hobby Lobby, saying they don't have to provide, I believe it's 4 types of contraception that they believe are abortion-causing drugs or abortion-inducing drugs, and therefore this mandate violated their faith. And in a 5-4 ruling, the Supreme Court agreed with them. It was a very narrow ruling, and they said that what they called closely held corporations have the freedom to essentially not be forced by the government to provide something that violates their religious beliefs. And as predictable as the sun rising in the east, the left had a complete and total meltdown on Twitter, and that's why I called today's show the Meltdown Edition, because I heard everything from this is a war on women to the Republicans are banning birth control and tampons, which we'll get to in a little bit, to John Fugelsang comparing Antonin Scalia and his ruling to Sharia law, which is a slap in the face to all the women who actually live and suffer under Sharia law.
Not that he cares.
Not that he cares, no. It just makes points, and I know when I'm involved looking for theological advice, the first person I'm going to go to is John Fugelsang, that's for sure.
Yep. Yeah, he was.
Go ahead.
He studies Bible like I read. I read Salon.com.
Yeah, he studies the Bible that's very good. Yeah, and it was entertaining to watch to a certain degree. I especially enjoyed the trolling that the SCOTUS blog Twitter feed engaged in when idiots thought that they were actually affiliated with the Supreme Court and that the justices were tweeting under that handle. And they did an epic job of trolling the haters and the idiots who kept sending them all sorts of horrific things. If you haven't seen it, haven't read it, go check out their feed because it is very, very amusing.
Because seriously, like that day, I had just gotten done cleaning up another shit mural that my youngest had made. Mm-hmm. And, I was in a terrible mood, but I read that and I laughed for probably hours reading what they were reading. It was just mood. It was uplifting. I'll tell you what.
The one I love the most is one where they said, "Hey, shouldn't you guys sign which justice is actually making the decisions? Put the names." And the reply was no Ginsburg.
That was that one, and the one, and I don't remember what the original tweet said, and I didn't pull it up, but their response was, "You complete us." And but the Ginsburg one was probably my favorite. That one, I don't remember where I was. I was not at home. I think I was reading it on the bus on the way home, but I was somewhere in public, and I was laughing so hard people around me thought I was crazy. It was hysterical, so kudos to them for...
Well, I'll put the link to the Twitchy post about it, because they have all the best ones on there. I put it in the chat room.
Awesome, yeah, go click on that, because they do have the best one. It's the "You Disgust Me" is the one where they reply, "Oh, you complete us." And it was just beautiful. But when you look at the bitching and the moaning that went on Monday and Tuesday and today, and then you see that this woman died because she was waiting for care, it really, really pisses me off. Because
you don't see the same outrage.
You don't see it. There is silence, absolutely silence from this. And it is popping up occasionally on Twitter. Mostly news outlets are covering it, and conservatives are talking about it. But you don't see the left freaking out about, oh, how awful this is. People are going to die. But women can't have birth control. It's the end of the world. Sandra Fluke has to go and pay $4 at Target for her pills, and they're going to die. But this woman who paid for her premium and was still denied care because Obamacare's exchanges and everything is so monumentally messed up, not a word. Not a word. And if you are completely okay with that, if you are more concerned about whether or not you get your birth control pills paid for by your employer, you need to get your priorities straight, because you have your priorities out of whack. And I don't know who is listening in right now, but if you have the ear of anybody in Republican circles who may be involved with a campaign, especially for the Senate, start collecting these stories, because I guarantee you right now...
I already do.
Yeah.
I do. I have like a huge collection. And I'm echoing.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of an echo, but we'll work through it.
Let's try this again. Crystal, talk for a minute, please.
Hello.
Okay. Whatever the issue was, it's fixed.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
If it happens again, I'll look and see who the problem is, and then I'll smack y'all down.
It's probably you, Taylor.
All right.
It's usually you.
Right, me. Yeah, the muted producer here.
Yeah.
Muted producers. It's always the muted producer's fault. Kind of like the butler did it. Getting back to what I was saying, Crystal, you said you started to collect these. Start keeping a record.
Yeah.
Because if you
I
are running,
have a huge one. Well, I have one on Facebook, but I also have one saved on my computer. The one on Facebook is pretty extensive, but I have other stories, and it's actually really depressing to keep it, but I think it's still important to keep those stories alive, to, have it. It's just so frustrating.
to honor and help these people, and I'll tell you right now, and I think we talked a little bit about this last night on Roundtable of Extreme Liberty, but this is going to be part of the midterm narrative. This war on women, you need to have your birth control paid bullcrap. And they are going to hammer it, they being the Democrats, and hammer it and hammer it and hammer it. And what the Republicans need to do, instead of putting their foot in their mouths and pulling a Todd Aiken, they need to pull out these stories and say, you're going to complain about paying for $4 a month birth control? Here, read this story about Linda Rolling, who paid for premium, which cost more than a $4 birth control prescription, and died of an aggressive brain tumor. The only way we are ever going to beat back this stupid emotional narrative that they've got going on is by playing these, or not playing, but sharing these stories and making them look like fools when they complain because Sandra Fluke can't get her condoms paid for. And saying, these people are dying, these people are being denied health care, these people are suffering because of what is going on because of this healthcare law, and you're going to complain about birth control rulings, and making sure that we make it very clear that I saw a piece, and I don't remember where it was from. I think it was Salon, but
Probably.
it was the laws that Christians can now ignore because of the SCOTUS ruling, and it made my brain hurt. Oh yeah, it was
Salon.
It was the Huffington. It was the Huffington Post.
Oh God.
For one, it's the Huffington Post.
True.
It's the Huffington Post. I'll put the link in the chat room so you can.
I'll be honest. Once in a while, HuffPost Business posts something that isn't absolutely ignorant. They do.
Well, this is because it says that Christians could ignore nudity laws, taxes, LSD, growing hemp, stoning, and that's a stretch.
Jesus.
Genital mutilation, because apparently this guy goes to the John Fugelsang School of Theology, pasteurized milk, and domestic violence. These are the 8 things that we can now ignore because SCOTUS said
the hell?
Doesn't have to pay.
They were taking all the drugs that you just listed. They're on them, all of them.
They are on them.
Because I know a lot of Christians are into gender mutilation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or stoning. The Bible is apparently full of instances of us stoning.
I regularly attend a stoning every day. Oh, nope, I don't.
Wait.
Yeah. And before someone says something, it's funny. I just got done reading John 8 today, which is where they take the woman who was caught in adultery. The Pharisees do and say, "Teacher, the law says this," and Jesus sits there and says, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone."
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think we need to remember that. We need to remember that passage more often, and I mean that just in a general standpoint.
Yeah, but. Come on. It puts it in perspective when you read about a woman who lost her battle with a brain tumor. I mean, she was admitted to hospice and care in early June, so she spent a month in hospice and she passed away. This article that I'm looking at doesn't say how old she was, excuse me.
She was 64. I just read an article on the New York Daily News.
Okay, so she was 64, so she wasn't...
Not very old.
No, she was a couple of years older than my dad. No, I take that back. She's a couple years younger than my dad.
Below the average life expectancy for a woman, which is now, I think, 81 in America.
81 or 82, yeah. So, this is the way that we are going to beat down, part of the way that we are going to beat down and beat back this narrative of the GOP is banning our birth control, they're coming after us, because it's ridiculous. It needs to stop. This ruling was the correct ruling. In the morning before it came down, I was concerned that it wouldn't. I did say it was going to go 5-4 in favor of Hobby Lobby, and I was correct. But if you read, and I didn't get to read all of it, but if you read the opinion, it does not give religious institutions carte blanche to do whatever they want to do. Whether or not you think that they should is another matter, but it does not mean that if your boss is a Jehovah's Witness, they can deny you a blood transfusion. It does not mean that if your boss believes in, certain procedures, you have to have them, you can't have them because of what your boss believes. It's basically saying the government cannot force people of...
Well, and it also cites specific types. It says closely held corporations, by definition, which means a company has to be at least 50% owned by 5 or fewer shareholders, and many times it does mean that it's family owned. So it does. If it doesn't meet that requirement, it doesn't have this so-called luxury to get out of providing, this 1/5 of birth control options. And additionally, if that company has over 2,000 employees, which obviously Hobby Lobby does, they're required to register with Securities and Exchange Commission and follow increased reporting and other requirements set by the SEC, which oversees publicly traded firms. So they have a lot of stipulations. It's not like, it just anybody can go up there and claim this, that, or the other, nor would that make any sense because to go through those hoops is ridiculous.
Yeah.
For one, you would really have to be a believer to go through those hoops and spend that money.
Yeah. And there was something else that I saw on Facebook about the Bible says forgive debts every 7 years. So I'm going to stop paying my student loans because we can break any law we want to now because of the SCOTUS ruling.
That is dumb.
I just wish people would stop talking about things before they actually read the entire case. And they're like, I don't care. It's the principle of the thing. If you read it, they're denying access. Well, no, they're not. Again, no, you're not reading the facts of the case. There are details.
I have worked for a variety. Yeah, I have worked for a variety of employers, both public and private. I have worked even for religious affiliated organizations, and never once in the entire time I have been working have they told me that I can't go out with my own money or through their insurance get access to birth control. It has never been denied to me, ever. It is a lie to say that because my employer does not provide me with X, they are denying me access to that. And if their argument is, well, some women can't afford birth control, I can't afford a Ferrari. So does that mean my employer is denying me access to a Ferrari because I can't afford it on the salary they give me? No. I bought the car I could afford. I prioritize and spend my money the way I want to. And my boss doesn't have a say in it. And if you're going to complain about people being in your bedroom and up in your business and telling you what you can and cannot do, don't ask them to be paying for your recreation. End of story.
Well, some of them are saying, well, it's going to lead to these businesses, getting out of paying birth control. And some people don't use it for sex. They use it for things like polycystic ovarian syndrome, which, by the way, I have some issues with that, but I don't take the pill. Mm-hmm. Another way, there are other ways to deal with that, number one. And number two, again, you shouldn't expect someone else to deal with your problems. That's not the way the world works. No,
I am in the same boat as you. I have some issues in that area as well, that female problems, and I don't take the pill because the WHO, and I bet if you told this to 95% of the people who are complaining about this order, they would not know that the WHO has listed the pill as a class 1 carcinogen. They would have no clue at all, and that it has links to certain types of cancer, including breast cancer. And they are so uninformed that all they hear is, well, now I'm not going to be able to have consequence-free sex. Woe is me, what am I going to do? And instead of putting on their big girl panties and going out and getting, the pill or a box of condoms, I'm going to complain and I'm going to stomp my feet and I'm going to say that the Republicans are banning birth control.
Republicans are declaring the war on women.
Yeah, that is my favorite thing when they say that they're trying to ban contraceptives. Who the hell said that? I want you to give me a video right now of a Republican saying that. I want it. I want it now.
Yeah, and a
Funny?
legitimate Republican,
produce it.
not some Alex Jones crackpot
Oh
who's
God.
standing on the
He's
street.
okay. Can I point out something? Alex Jones is Alex Jones. He's not a Republican.
He
He's not a
makes
Democrat.
money off
Not a
of freaking
libertarian.
people out.
Yeah.
Yes,
And I'd also like to point out that most folks and this is on both sides of the aisle. I'd like to point that out too.
Yes.
Most folks just go for to quote Jake Tapper, the blargy blarg outrage.
Blargy
Yeah.
blarg outrage. I love that. No, it's here. I'm gonna put a pic up in the chat room. That I shared again last night, and this is just a sample of some of the stuff that we collectively conservatives who cheered this ruling were happy with. It's insane. Just I'm floored. But no, you're right. You are never going to find any legitimate Republican saying we need to ban birth control. It's not going to happen because the logic pretzels you have to twist yourself into in order to come to that conclusion are mind-boggling.
She literally says, "Can the president veto Republican bills attempting to criminalize birth control?" Wow.
Yeah, and I where are these bills? Because
number one, does she? Not only is it insane, and obviously no Republican would ever propose that, but she does realize that the Democrats have the Senate too and the White House, so it's not like. Why is she freaking out?
And they had control of it up until the last midterm election in 2010. But
yeah, so if they wanted to fix the economy like they said they were going to, but they seem not. They can't now because the Republicans are obstructionists or whatever. They had 2 years before to enact things that made things better, but they didn't. They chose to push through a healthcare law that is broken and nobody read.
No, and people are actually dying from, like this woman, Linda, who did everything that she was supposed to do. She signed up for the healthcare plan. I'm sure she paid a pretty penny for that premium, and she still passed away because she couldn't get treatment because they screwed things up and couldn't figure out how to put together an exchange that some undergrad could do in 15 minutes.
It's probably just an isolated incident, though, because of those contractors. Oh, wait.
Yeah, this is a
How
class
many other
action.
states? In the federal site? Absolutely.
Yeah, on the federal site. And her lawyer who is handling this case said there may be 100 other people who have the same situation facing a life-threatening illness, and there are 150 Nevadans in this class action lawsuit. That's not a small amount of people for one state to be involved in this class action lawsuit. And these are the kind of stories we are going to use to beat back the narrative and the BS that the Democrats are going to throw at us from now until November in an attempt to hold on by the skin of their teeth to the Senate. Because they are looking like they are going to lose. They know that they are going to lose. And they are going to do whatever it takes to hold on to at least one body of government so that they can continue the status quo as it's been for way too long now. Way too long now. So, enough about what has outraged me. And we're
everyone, for better or for worse.
For better or for worse.
Anyone
yes,
who thinks. No, I'm just saying anyone thinks. I mean, you basically have to not have a heart just to be outraged that a 64-year-old woman passed away because she couldn't get the right treatment because of a healthcare plan that was shoved through by Congress who didn't really read it. They never. Nancy Pelosi has the most infamous quote ever.
Oh, you keep cutting out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What's up with that?
Yeah, but no, she said we have to pass it to find out what's in it, and now they've passed it. We're finding out what's in it. They're changing it every frickin' day almost.
How many changes has it been now? 27?
I think it's something like 27.
28?
Yeah, because after
27, 28.
And after SCOTUS ruled in favor of Obamacare, remember what that snarky ass tweet the White House sent out? It's the law.
It's the law.
Yeah.
It was ruled constitutional as a tax.
Yeah, it
just
was ruled
so everyone remembers.
Yeah, and so now SCOTUS has ruled on this issue, the HHS mandate, and suddenly it's not the law. And you can expect more of this to come down the pike because there's still the Little Sisters of the Poor and a couple other purely religious organizations. I believe Priests for Life or EWTN, they're going to be going before the Supreme Court with the exact same thing. This ruling bodes well for them in the fact that they have clearly established that they are religious institutions and have deeply held religious beliefs. But with this Supreme Court, it's never a guarantee. I mean, Kennedy could change his mind and they could say the mandate applies to the Little Sisters of the Poor. But it bodes well for them, and we will see the exact same hysteria when these cases come through. And it boggles the mind. And if the Republicans are smart, especially the ones running for office, they will point out these stories and talk about the issues of birth control, etc., in the context that we've been talking about it, as it being up to the woman and her independent decision and not something the government should be involved in, and then looking at what the government does to people who try and sign up for the healthcare plans. We are going to shift to another topic, which didn't get me so much outraged as made me roll my eyes. The World Cup, as you know...
This is kind of the same, isn't it? Are you talking about the same topic, basically? The same type of people?
The same type of people, the people who have to be politically correct at all times, who cannot find humor or joy or cleverness in anything and always have to make people feel bad for expressing even the slightest amount of creativity. And we are talking about Mexico and the Netherlands and their World Cup game. This was back on Sunday. They played and Mexico lost. I have not watched much of the World Cup, so it was my understanding kind of an upset that Mexico lost. And Royal Dutch Airlines, which tweets at KLM, sent out a text that said, "Adios amigos, #NedMex," and then it had a picture of a departure sign with a man, the image of a man in a sombrero, like on the departure sign, like a cartoon image. And I will put a link to the Twitchy page up in the chat room. It's not as bad as it sounds. I'm just not describing it right.
Well, I can just see where that went.
Yeah.
Without even looking.
Yeah, without even looking at the link, it was, it's racist. Someone called it the controversial tweet, how to infuriate over 100 million people in 140 characters. It was being called racist. Your tweet about Mexico going back home wasn't necessary. It
was a little unsportsmanlike, but
it was a little cocky. Like, I mean, it's kind of celebrating a win, but too much, like just shooting it. I mean, it could have said, you could have said, "Good job."
Well, even if they just said something, it is in poor taste. But I wouldn't necessarily say, like, I wouldn't give someone else precedence over my emotions rather than myself. You know what I mean? I don't let people, I don't give a crap what people think. And I think a lot of people take offense and they get all butthurt or whatever. And I'm just not one of those people. I don't think that, you should be butthurt after everything people say. But yeah, I would say it was in a little poor taste just because of that little picture to the left.
I think the picture is what puts it over the top. But do you really think that if that hadn't been there, and I didn't think it was that outrageous.
No, if they said "Adios amigos," meh, whatever, haha, it's sports,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's always going to be smack talk. I think it happened in the recent play, like what, 6 months ago. I think it was one airline's taunted another set of fans. So it's going to happen, but just don't get pissed off about it.
Well, I live in Milwaukee, and we have a joke. And if anybody's a Cubs fan, I apologize, but we call County Stadium. Ooh, there's a throwback. We call Miller Park Wrigley North because when we play the Cubs, their fans invade, and
they invade everywhere. They show up here too. I mean,
yeah, I mean, but it's easy to. It's an hour and a half drive, or by the train from Chicago, so they come a lot. And the smack talk and the stuff you hear in the bleachers when that's going on is nothing compared to this. And everybody who was so upset about it being this big racist thing, it was silly and move on. And I have a problem with it because political correctness more and more is creating what I call, and it's not my term and I don't remember who originally said it, but a cultural desert where nothing can be fun, nothing can be risky, nothing can be risque, nothing can have humor or maybe kind of push the envelope because somebody somewhere is going to be offended. I think a couple weeks ago on the show we talked about the Washington Redskins name, and someone on MSNBC said the standard should be if one person is offended, then stuff has to change.
Oh my God, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and
everything would change. Everything all the time.
All the time. Because there are things out there that tick me off and things that I find to be distasteful and offensive. But you know what? I'm also an adult, first and foremost. Second of all, I'm rational. And if you're going to act and say and do things to stuff that offends me, fine, do it. I largely, unless you're a threat to my life or liberty, whatever, I don't care. If you're going to be an idiot, you're going to end up getting hoisted on your own petard anyway. So,
yeah, and if you're an idiot, you're not immune from any kind of criticism either. No. So, I mean, me talking back and saying, hey, what you did, that was really stupid. You can't. You know what I mean? Which is fine. I don't understand why it's so bad to discuss things, have different opinions. There are almost 7 billion people on the planet. Nobody's going to believe in everything that another person believes. You're all going to have your different thoughts. You're all going to disagree. I don't understand why it's so bad to point out things or disagree on things. It just turns into just ridiculous arguments and outrage.
I'm offended by that.
Well, fuck you.
It's just phony outrage. I mean, they're not. They want to be outraged. I mean, I think most liberals and some people who like to be politically correct just like to be outraged. Like,
well, and there are some on the right.
There are some on the right that do the same thing.
Yeah. But today on Twitter, Burger King had that Whopper with the gay pride wrapper on it. And people were all up in arms. And there are such...
I wouldn't say it wasn't a ridiculous, like, yeah, I saw a few people being friggin' stupid about it.
Yeah, but so it happens, Yeah,
it does. And I thought it was ridiculous. They're like, oh, what does it say on the inside? It said, we're all the same on the inside or whatever. Whatever.
Yeah. It
doesn't bug me. I don't care.
I'm not going to get my knickers in a bunch over a frickin' burger when there are bigger issues going on. Just chill, okay?
So I thought it was kind of pretty. I don't know.
It's Burger King. And you know what offends me more than their gay pride wrapper is their stupid Satis fries. That the name is like nails on a chalkboard and they taste awful.
What is it?
They're called Satis fries.
It's supposed to be like low calorie, right?
I get it.
Yeah, get it? So I have to laugh because Boyd in the chat room is referring to Alan as 8-way because of last night's 8-way Skype call, and we didn't destroy Skype, so it's highly, highly amusing.
That 8-way was fun, you guys.
It was awesome. You have to listen to
8-way.
You have to listen to the rebroadcast to understand how entertaining it was, and that is awesome. So I think we have a new nickname for Alan, courtesy Boyd. But back to the topic at hand. What was that, John?
No, I have to listen to that podcast in an 8-way. Wow, that.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Did you guys all yell in unison? By the end
of the night, none of us were walking right. I'll tell you what. I'm kidding.
I was gonna say, were you guys all just trying to talk in unison and yell at each other?
Yes.
Well, toward it was kind of funny because toward the end there was a great discussion going on about the Mississippi election, and Alan, Crystal, and I were not really part of it because the other three were handling it so beautifully. So we were. What were we doing, Crystal?
Drinking.
Drinking.
Oh.
And
That's what
chat
I was
room.
doing. Also, I was on Twitter making fun of people. That's,
That's your specialty. That's your forte.
it's my thing. I like it's fun. Actually, I've gotten to the point where sometimes there are certain trolls that I know follow me just to troll me, and I don't give them the time of day because I'm not going to waste my time on people that literally, like, that's what they live for, is to troll.
No,
Like, that's...
I will, however, confess to saying that every once in a while, if I'm in a snarky mood, I like to poke the bear's cage a little bit.
Well, yeah, to get it
I like to
out,
poke
get the
at John
aggression out.
Fugelsang.
Get the aggression out and
I honestly like to poke at Fugelsang because he's such a religious scholar of our time.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, his depiction of the Bible is so on point.
Yes,
Oh,
and
yes.
everything, and his understanding of what Sharia law really is. He just said it because it was clever and kind of sounded like Scalia. So I don't think
He's
he
so
blocks
stupid.
me because I can see.
I
his
tried to
feed.
listen to. Can I say something? I tried to listen to some of his comedy. I couldn't even laugh. I was like, "This is pathetic."
No, okay. Forgive me. I honestly and truly did not know he did comedy.
Yeah.
I didn't either. I just knew that he did like really lame movies, TV show or whatever.
Oh, you suck when you can't even make America's funniest videos sound appealing.
Was he the host of that at one time?
Yes, he was.
Oh my gosh,
Oh,
he was.
With Daisy
yeah.
Fuentes, right?
Yeah. I actually I remember
shit.
seeing those episodes, and I'm like, oh,
He makes Bob Saget look awesome because I've gone back and watched.
Hey! Bob Saget is awesome.
Really, Taylor? That's what you picked to pipe
Really?
up on? You're like,
Yes.
Hey,
No,
you
Bob
guys.
Saget. It's been all
Bob
about
Saget has a heart too. You
I-
guys
No,
come
Bob
No, I
Saget.
think he's funny.
Are you talking his Full House Danny Tanner Good
He
Boy
is-
stick or his
no,
Hey,
his
Not
have
safe
you
for
ever
work
sucked?
adult
Hey! Have you ever sucked dick for coke? Because I have.
Actually, yeah, he has ridiculous, like really raunchy comedy, and it actually is funny. But
And I see I've never seen his raunchy stuff because
I think the only thing I've seen of his is the Comedy Central roast of him. So it's actually he was pretty
I
good.
never
He
saw
actually
that.
well, it's actually kind of funny, but sometimes it's I don't know. It's like some jokes are dumb, like
Yeah.
Brian Posehn. Well, some comedians are dumb, like Brian Posehn.
So is this where we go on and talk about the manifesto for the visibility of the period?
we can. Yes, and this
Well,
is
that's all the
we're
time we have for this week's edition of Modern Comments. Be sure to catch us next week.
Yep, as all the guys go running from the chat
Yeah,
room.
Taylor, I'm gonna go take a break.
Okay.
He'll leave it up to Crystal and I. No, it's a group of women, and I use that term loosely, in Spain, and they're performance artists. And right there, you know it's going to be good because performance art typically makes no sense and looks to just tick people off. And they call it the Manifesto for the Visibility of the Period. And this was a thing on Twitter, and everybody said, "Oh no, it's a parody. It's fake. The feminists aren't really going that far." Well, apparently
Actually,
they
no,
are. Yeah, and
They are.
they believe that by attempting to hide our periods, a perfectly natural bodily function, we are participating in the patriarchal system and effectively punishing ourselves for being women. John, are you laughing?
No, I'm actually just doing something in my kitchen right now.
Okay. To detract from the horror of what I'm reading, I apologize. So I will put the link up in the chat room. I apologize in advance, and I am saying right now, click at your own risk. I don't want anybody coming back and going, "What did you show me?" They are
Just
out.
showed you women who are wearing white pants with their period blood showing.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
all we
yeah,
need to know. That's all we need to know. You can
Yep,
stop.
Yep,
You
that's
can
what they're
stop at white pants.
So it's it kind of ties in neatly to the first topic we talked about, and this whole notion of it's my body, my choice, but your responsibility. This is my body and my choice, but I'm not ashamed of, and I'm not ashamed of having my period, which is a perfectly natural bodily function. Fine,
Yes, but I don't
But-
need to hear about it.
There are lots
But-
of bodily functions that no one needs to see. I don't want to see a dude's ejaculate on his pants. You know, I don't need to see somebody shitting. I know
No,
it
there are-
happens. I
You
know
apparently
everybody does it.
you apparently have to deal with that on a regular basis, though, Crystal, right?
yeah,
Yes, I
but,
do.
but when it's your kid, it's different. It's
yeah,
annoying and awful,
It
and
is. And you teach them. What do you teach them? That's freaking disgusting. And it's unsanitary. And it's aggravating. Don't do that. That's what you
Yes.
teach them at a very
That's
young
what-
age.
yes,
For good
and-
reasons.
And I learned a long time ago when my first son was born, being involved with other parents online, that you never ever laugh at somebody's poop stories, because if you do, it will happen to you. So Crystal has nothing
Well.
but my sympathy, and I am not even the slightest bit amused by what she has to go through with her child.
I climbed
never
up a Chick-fil-A play place slide today to clean up shit.
Uh-oh.
Oh gosh.
That's what I did today.
Well,
Yeah, and it's you
deserve a
because
reward or
you
something.
go and you clean it up, and because you're a responsible adult. Now I'm gonna guess that when these
and
women,
because it's unsanitary.
and because it's well, yeah, and that kind of was implied under the whole responsible adult thing. But do you think that these women are going to be cleaning up after themselves? They sit on your seat at the movie theater? Probably not. And they expect you to respect their bodies and their choices, pay for their birth control, and then put up with this crap. And I think it was you. When we were talking about this on Twitter when the news story first broke. You had said something about Crystal. Now I just had it and it slipped away.
Well, honestly, I want to believe that these women they just want attention, you know? That's what I want to believe. But there's a part of me saying, that's not it.
No,
At the heart of it, they really just think that women should be to be able to do whatever the hell they want and fuck the consequences.
yeah, and somebody else has to deal with the consequences, the unsanitariness, the diseases, the just ick factor of dealing with that. Now, if I
need
saw
a
somebody,
brain bleach.
yeah, I know, and
You're
I apologize. You were warned, John, what the topic
Yes, I
gonna be
was warned.
before you agreed to come on.
But
But-
hey, I'll come in.
But if I see somebody who looks like they're bleeding or hurt, I'm going to assume that they were attacked, that they got shot, that they got stabbed, that they need some sort of medical attention, and I'm going to respond accordingly, aside from being kind of like, ew. Especially if it turns out this isn't a medical emergency. They're not in public, God forbid, having a miscarriage, and then I'm going to look at them, and I want to look at them and go, what the hell?
That's
Yeah.
pretty
Or you
much
want to go,
right.
you want to go up and help. You want to go, hey, do you need a tampon? Or hey, do you need to go to the hospital? But they're like, no.
No, this is the
Okay,
tampons
then what
of
the hell's
total
wrong with you?
patriarchy.
I think that's more for an insane asylum. You can call that for that. I mean, they can go to a mental hospital.
Well, that's
For what?
another thing. They call this country a patriarchy. They call their country a patriarchy, and they have no idea what an actual patriarchy is.
No.
I actually
Of
have no
course
clue what
No
a
not.
idea.
patriarchy is.
Say that again, John?
I have no clue what a patriarchy is.
No, you haven't lived under it.
No.
No idea.
No. It's this big sort of amorphous concept that they throw out there in their attempt to, they talk about making I can't say it, feminism, making men and women equal. And Chris is in the chat room going, my harem knows what a patriarchy is. Well done. They say these things, they say these words, they turn these words into meaning whatever they want them to mean, they manipulate it. So now it means anything that makes women feel bad is part of the quote-unquote patriarchy. And
any kind of criticism whatsoever, any kind of responsibility whatsoever. It's part of the patriarchy.
It's part of the patriarchy. Yep. And we've gone from, feminism saying things like, don't get married. Well, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. And now it's, you don't need a loving and supportive husband who will do things like help you pay for your birth control. But we need to have the government get involved and be your collective sugar daddy and give you all of these things, because we aren't going to have them otherwise. We are too weak, too oppressed, to whatever, to go out and pay $4 at Walmart for...
Well, then they complain about these minimum wage jobs. Well, you know what policies are hindering job growth? I'll give you a hint. It isn't the rights policies.
Yeah, and here's another hint, another thing that you're going to completely flip out about. Hobby Lobby pays its employees almost double minimum wage. I think the starting wage at
it's like $14 or $15 starting. Yep, that's starting, and they give regular raises. Yeah, like throughout the year. Just
honestly and truly, amazing. If I didn't have the job I had now, I would go. There isn't a Hobby Lobby near enough me, unfortunately, but I would go and work at a Hobby Lobby in a heartbeat for $15 an hour.
Hell yeah.
That was more than I had made at pretty much any job I worked at until I started this job. And I worked at some crappy places doing some crappy jobs for some crappy pay. And I still paid for my own stuff, my own food, my own whatever.
Well, yeah, that's another thing is that you can't pay for that on a minimum wage job. I did. I was in high school, and I paid for my own stuff.
Yeah, but see,
my own. And I was working part-time at Subway.
I mean, and my thing, the mentality that you have to have a wage-supporting job flipping burgers, those jobs aren't meant to be family-sustaining jobs. Nope, that was a stopgap when I lost a job that was paid more. That was a temporary thing until I could find something better.
Yeah.
It wasn't meant I'm going to stay here for the rest of my life, have 10 kids, and then complain because I make $8 an hour and can't pay the bills. No, absolutely not. And when I started the job in the call center, which was the worst job I've ever had, including the job at McDonald's, it started off at $9 an hour. Crystal. Now I'm making more than double that in 3 years' time, 4 years' time. So
I think I shared with one of you about my mom. She used to start at McDonald's. She lasted there for like maybe a year or two, and then she went to work for a courthouse here in Arizona. So it's not supposed to be permanent. It's just supposed to be temporary.
Yeah, and I'm sure she gained, customer relation skills. It's a stepping stone.
Yeah, I gained skills. I did things during my time there. I got into training, which was like a 25-cent an hour bonus incentive to train people. But I mean, the hours sucked, the pay sucked, the working rules sucked. But I did it. I got up every day. I went to that job. I hated it with a passion some days, but I did it. And I got out of there because I hated it. And
my worst job was raking blueberries. And that's what you do. You rake them. It's awful. And I started when I was 12. I believe I was 12. That's an awful job. And you get paid per pound. You don't get paid per hour.
Wow.
At least when I was 12.
Yeah, and it boggles my mind that we have to have these jobs that pay things, and we're going to use the government to manipulate the market some more, and then we're going to wonder why there aren't jobs being created.
It's because government's not doing enough. And capitalism's...
Did you see the story out of France where the person wants to go after French, where the politician wants to go after French companies for not creating enough jobs?
You kidding me?
Nope.
Oh my goodness.
That's not where jobs come from.
No.
For fuck's sake, people, take some goddamn econ. Just one class.
Government can only create the conditions in which other people will create jobs. Government does not make jobs. Just like they don't.
If they get the hell out of the way, it's much
Mhm.
easier.
Yeah, if
Pretty
they
much.
create laws that reduce the size of government, that limit regulations, that lower taxation, jobs will get created. But the government doesn't have anything to do with that. They're just making
Well,
it
and then I
easier
had
for hardworking people.
someone tell me that the Great Depression was because of free markets. Seriously.
Nope.
No, I'm not
Men's
kidding.
mention.
Someone said that. I was like, oh, that's
Well,
I was
That
just saying
wasn't
that's
here's the
dominant.
issue. Hang on a second, but see, this is the thing though, is that's been the overarching commentary for the last 60 years. Was, oh look, FDR saved everything because he
No, he didn't.
because
He
he
prolonged.
expanded government and all that stuff. And what it ignores the fact is that Hoover passed the the Smith-Macaulay tariff.
Okay.
That really hurt. That really hurt the growth of the economy because it placed all these tariffs on things that were being imported, and so people stopped putting an info
sounds like a
on their,
helicopter.
or stopped importing and stopped buying stuff.
Because when you
and
you
that
make
was the
things-
biggest issue.
Well,
when you
yeah,
make-
and then the Federal Reserve was manipulating interest rates. They were printing too much money, blah, blah, blah.
does that sound familiar?
Yeah, weird. That does sound familiar.
Smoot-Hawley
No.
Tariff Act, excuse me.
It's not good.
It's history does repeat itself, and we are seeing it all over again. And people are so miserable. But what is the cause of outrage? Oh, Hobby Lobby doesn't have to provide 4 forms of birth control.
Out of 20.
I out of 20.
1/5 of the options they don't have to do.
And I think part of the problem is that the other issues, the big issues, are so big that I don't think some people can comprehend them. So they are unable to.
It's
on
a big it's a big issue. You're absolutely right there. You're absolutely right there.
So instead
one of the things that I want to point out, because we do have a few minutes left in the show, John Alvarado, where can we find you on Twitter?
Well, it's obviously at JOHN_ Alvarado _1.
All right, Crystal, where can we find you?
At Tar Heel Crystal on, and that's KRYSTLE on Twitter, or every Tuesday night on VLR's Roundtable of Extreme Liberty at 10 p.m.
And you can find me at iDesert Blog. That's at EYE Desert, like the desert, blog. You can find me there. You can also find me, in just a few minutes on Right War, the simulcast of Right War on FTR Radio. You can find that here. Just be sure to be over in the FTR Radio chat. You can find me tomorrow there as well, starting at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central. And Saturdays, Saturday Night Cigar Lounge, here at its new start time of 9 p.m. Central. Again, the new start time, 9 p.m. Central. We're going 2, maybe even 3 hours. Amy, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Modern Comments. You can find me on my blog, moderncomments.wordpress.com. And you can find me occasionally contributing to Real Raw Right. And real quick, I want to plug next week's show because I'm very excited. We have a guest, Holly Fisher. And if you've been on Twitter, you know that she was the mom of the 10-month-old named Nora who lost her cardiologist because of Obamacare. So next week, she is going to be on the program along with Alan Bordius of Their Finest Hour. And we're going to talk to her about her experience and what she's been going through in wake of this healthcare law. So I'm hoping everybody can tune in next week because I'm very excited for that program.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much, and
Thank you very much.
And we will talk with you. We will talk with you guys next week. Again, this is the Modern Comment Show here on Vigilant Liberty Radio, and we will talk with you soon.
Good night,
Thank you
everybody.
guys very much. Everybody have a good Independence Day.
Yes, happy Independence Day, everybody.
America.
Yes. Talk to y'all next week.
This show is copyright by VLR Media. All opinions of panelists and guests are their own and may not reflect the opinion of VLR Media, the host, or anyone else.